All right, to our first big story now. More than 155 people have been killed by bandits in Nigeria's northwest state of Zamfara in less than 1 month.
And that's according to Governor Abdulaziz Yari. More than 20 people were killed and many others injured when gunmen attacked three communities. The incidents occurred in Zurmi local government area. However, the police say only 9 people were killed, including 2 policemen.
A similar attack occurred in some communities in Shinkafi local government area last week Friday, and about 40 people were abducted in Maru local government the same day.
On November 7th, another attack by gunmen in the state resulted in the death of at least 40 people as gunmen suspected to be cattle rustlers entered a mining site in Gedang Ardo village in the Bedin district of Maru local government area. Now, the police and the counter-terrorism unit have been deployed to the area to restore law and order.
Well, that gives you the background in there. Now we have joining us in the studio security expert, Tony Ofoyeton, and he'll be here to talk about this. Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Right. Now, it is surprising to hear that bandits or suspected cattle rustlers, whatever they're called, are on the killing spree in Zamfara State. And it's not just one day. It's occurring and reoccurring and going on and on.
Well, for some of us, it's not surprising. And the reason is if you cast your mind back to several forecasts we made here, we made it expressly clear that Boko Haram is only going to metamorphose and operate in different strategy in different locations. Once the heat is so much, especially in Maiduguri, in Adamawa, in Yobe, now the natural thing is for them to move to other regions where you have less heat, as it were. And I remember also that we advise security agencies to be more proactive, which simply means that you should take the battle to them, rather than wait, because from everything we have seen in Zamfara, they are basically reactionary, especially from security agencies. Basically reactionary. You wait for the attack, and after the attack, you are now looking for ghosts, as far as I'm concerned. And as we speak now, you ask a simple question: how many people have been apprehended? Now, you don't know these people. You call them cattle rustlers, you call them whatever nomenclature, bandits, and the like. How do you know they are bandits? You have not apprehended any one of them. None of them have made confession to say that I'm a bandit. And meanwhile, cattle, who are cattle rustlers? They are basically cattle thieves.
Exactly.
Cattle thieves don't go that extent of going to villages and killing people. They are not interested
and kidnapping
in all this,
others.
and kidnapping.
But what do we make of a situation where you have students of a polytechnic killing people, about 8 people in this particular case, sometime this year, all in the name of blasphemy against their religion? Well, I mean, when you say you're not surprised and that these people are spreading their tentacles, talking about the Boko Haram, these university students, they're not Boko Haram members.
No, you see, I'm sorry to say this, but there are times we have to face certain reality and truth, blunt truth. And the blunt truth is that there's religious crisis in the north. One of the major problems in the north is religion. And that is just the blunt truth. And if we don't face it, we keep still having this same situation. Now, there are high level of fanaticism in the north, to the extent that, those that believe so much in their own religion, in Islam, says that all other religions, as far as they are concerned, should not coexist. And that is where the northern governors and the
Is that what Islam says, or is it what some of their clerics,
I'm not
but
you see, that is where the problem lies. Immediately we talk religion, everybody becomes agitated. Even though you know the truth, you become agitated, you become no. Look, but the fact remains that everything we talk about bogs on religion. And that's just the truth. Look at what is happening in Benue State, for example. The people that come to Benue State villages, they will sack a whole village. Now, the difference is this. In some other states, they sack the village, operate, and go. In Benue State, they will sack a whole village, take over, and take over everything and establish Islam in those villages.
All right, let's go on a break, and then we come back, Tony, on this. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
All right, you're welcome back. It's TVC Breakfast. We're looking at the killings or killing spree going on in Zamfara. If you recall, as far back as 2014, sometime in April, about 100 people were actually killed in the same Zamfara. And we're looking at this with Tony Ofoyeton, a security expert who's with us in the studio here. Okay, so now, this has been going on for some time now. And the question is, why is Zamfara so vulnerable?
Well, Zamfara is more or less like a borderline too, a border state. And don't forget that our border are extremely porous. So it's easy in and out of Zamfara State from neighboring countries. And since the security at the borderline is extremely porous, you expect situations like this. Zamfara is in the north, and like I said earlier, the shift is moving. You will see that Yobe today is relatively peaceful. You see that Adamawa today is relatively peaceful. And don't forget that the sect called Boko Haram, to some extent, they have splinter groups now. That simply means that each group will have its own terrain of operation, as it were. So naturally, what we expect the security agencies to understand is that as far as terrorism is concerned, Nigeria is the constituency. Yes, it's true that as it is now, north is the hot spot. But don't forget the fact that the more you hit them, the more you push them there, the more they also spread, move to some other region of the country. And as to me, I've not seen, a serious approach of the government against terrorism. I'm sorry to say, because when you have situation where you have a very weak security network, where you have situation where you have a very weak immigration laws and execution of immigration laws and the like, it makes the whole country as a whole very vulnerable. If I ask you now, the next man that sells sweets, biscuit, cucumber and the like in your neighborhood, where does he come from? Now you assume he's from Zamfara or he's from Sokoto, but when you approach him, you discover that he's from Niger, he's from Chad, he's from some other neighboring country. You don't even know his name. If he commits a crime within your neighborhood and disappear, that is just the end.
Isn't that where the problem is? We don't even have data. I remember we had a guest here, sometime back, who actually kept harping on the fact that Nigeria needs accurate data to be able to identify who is a Nigerian, who is a non-Nigerian, who is here for whatever reason, and all of that. When do they leave?
That is why Nigerians will have to hold our leadership. It means that the leaders of this country are toying with the lives of the people. That's just because you're even talking of pedestrian, sweet sellers and all those stuff. What about situation where you talk about world powers seeing Nigeria as it were naked, bare, unprotected? And look at the irony of it all is that we have been so rendered incapacitated to the extent that we cannot even protect ourselves. Because look at it, a situation where somebody slaps you and before you hit, a policeman is holding your hand to say you cannot retaliate, and you go. 3 days later, the person slaps you again. Before you raise up your hand, a policeman or an army is holding you. Now you know that something is wrong somewhere. And these are issues that
happening in this case?
These are what are happening in the north. And that is why, as far as I'm, I've told you severally that I don't believe in IDP camp. I don't believe in IDP camp. If you have a serious-minded government, if you have a serious-minded security network, there is no reason for you to ask people to leave their homes. If you have taken over a village from the terrorists, let the people go back there, give them protection. Because if you say IDP camp and somebody is out of his family for 2, 3, 5 years, 5 years later, a lot of things would have changed in that community. A lot of things would have changed in that community. Your house will no longer be your house. Your village will no longer be your village. Your community will no longer be your community. As at that time, a lot of reorientation and acculturation and all those stuff like that. And that is why, you see, because when you talk about bringing IDP camp, coming to give them relief materials and the life as if they are slaves in their own father's land, as far as I'm concerned, it's a defeatist approach towards security.
But aren't those, temporary measures really to, help
you call
those people
something
who are
temporary.
victims?
Look at it. The UN expects that an average IDP camp should be 6 months, extended maximum to 12 months. My sister, between you and I and in the Federal Republic of Nigeria today, is there any IDP camp that just existed for 6 months or 1 year?
Well, we've been there for quite some time. All right, now let's talk about the capacity of the security agencies. Now, we know that when Nigerian security agencies, call them police or the SSS or Interpol or the military, when they go out for any assignment outside this country, they come out as the top, they come out at the top of everything. But when it comes back home, it's always different when they get back home. Why do we have that disparity in performance?
Now, I must tell you that our security agencies are good. That's just the truth. Leave whatever propaganda, whatever anybody will say, they are good. Individually, they have gone through, and collectively, they have gone through true, real training. Yes, of course, there are some of them that are intellectually, whatever. But the fact remains that on the average, the Nigerian security agencies are very good. But the profession called security is such that you obey orders. If you are not asked to go, you don't go. Look at it. It's so bad to the extent that if you are not ordered to shoot, you don't shoot. If not so, your own life, you have to pay for it because you'll be court-martialed. We've had situations where, look at the Enugu saga. When the people came to the army and the army came, they were in the village and the people said, no, these people, the headsmen are in the bush. They said we were not given order to go into the bush. You can't blame them. Let me tell you, if the president, even as the security agency is today, if the president gives a marching order to the service chief and say, any day I hear of any community attacked and one goat die, consider yourself a dead man.
So what are you saying in essence? Is it a failure?
Within 1 week,
something will happen.
You will be surprised.
So is it a failure on the part of the leadership?
Absolutely.
Going all the way to the very top.
Absolutely.
In response to this latest killings in early November in Zamfara, President Buhari did give the order that the security forces should go out there and apprehend all those involved in this, what they have called unnecessary killings of innocent Nigerians. And Buratai, Chief of Army Staff, has said 60% of these people are not even Nigerians, including the president himself. So what do we make of all of this? I mean, the president has given the orders.
No,
there's
a difference between political order and the real security order. There's a big wall of difference. Like I said, there are so many undertones that because you are on air, even when you know certain things, NBCs, the regulatory agencies will come and tell you, no, don't tell those people, it's not good, it will incite a lot of public whatever, it would, and the whole thing is that you are accumulating a lot of dynamite, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger until, God forbid, one day it will explode right in our own very face. If you look at what happened in Central Republic, it's a big-time religious war as we speak till today. Man, these are things that we could curb now. There are things we could curb. And how? Speak the truth. Let X know that this is where you belong. This is your territory. You don't have any reason to impose your own religious faith on us. Let everybody, it's a secular country. Let everybody practice his or her own religion. If you want to convince anybody to belong to your religion, there are ways to do it through whatever, whether preaching or evangelism or whatever. If that person says, the best you can do is say, don't harass anybody in any way whatsoever. That will bring some level of sanity. However, as it is now, the leadership, even the leadership as a whole, they know the truth and they conceal the truth. And of course, at the end of the day, this is now what is giving impetus to those that are perpetrating this act of terrorism to go further and further. And like I said, it's not even a northern thing now, because the approach in the north is different. The approach in the south is different.
All right, in all of this now, when we talk about security agencies, all right, before I ask you this question, let's go on a break, and then we will come back on this. And certainly, at this time, we're going out on TVC Entertainment. Viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria, on Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Also, stay with us on GoTV 45 and ACTV 510. Don't go away.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are discussing the recent killings in Zamfara State, one of Nigeria's northwestern states. And we have Tony Ofoyeton with us in the studio. He is a security expert, and we've been talking about this. Now, I was going to ask you earlier before we went on break, when we have situations like this, bandits or cattle rustlers come into the country, because senior figures in the country have said, senior citizens have said that these people sometimes are not Nigerians. Has there been any effort, or what effort can be put in place to collaborate between Nigeria and neighboring countries where they come from or where they reside, and from where they come to Nigeria, perpetrate their act and go back?
No, I think, to me, before you talk about collaboration, you must fortify your own jurisdiction very well. Collaboration is to the extent to which it favors the other party. Don't forget that national interest is paramount to every country in the world. That is why Barack Obama will tell you we are ready to work with any country in the world, bearing in mind the American interest first. You know, and he was not diplomatic about it. And I'm sure that no world leader will be diplomatic about such thing. The same thing is applicable here. Before you talk about collaborating with Chad, with Niger, with Cameroon, and all other neighboring countries, even with Benin Republic here, the first thing is, how many routes do we have? Illegal routes in and out of the country. The Immigration Service has said we have up to 1,000 illegal routes.
About 1,400 unmanned.
1,400. Now, that is the first thing. The issue is not collaboration. The issue is not, working. First, that 1,400, how do you reduce it to a manageable level? First, it is when you have achieved that you now talk about collaboration. Because if you collaborate with them, they will only be working with you vis-a-vis their own territorial integrity, But what of other places that are neither here nor there? What of places that
no
go
man's
straight,
land,
no man's land, or places that go straight into the water before it goes into another country and all those stuff like that? So I think that it behoves on the government to think of strategies to be able to fortify, if it means walling. As far as I'm concerned.
I mean, you took it right out of my mouth. I was going to say, should we do the Trump
look,
on this borders? I mean, this is really serious.
But we consider the position of Nigeria and West Africa. Who are we going to war with?
We're not expected to be more Catholic than the Pope. Yes, we should love ourselves first before we talk about any other country in the world. Any other country in the world. Nigerians should love Nigeria first and love himself first. So if you are talking of Nigeria being the economic hub of West Africa, if we have everything it takes and all we have is just one gate in and out of Nigeria, they will still pass through that gate because of what we have, as far as I'm concerned. If it means walling, if it means, mining those places, whatever it takes, I think that should be the first approach, not collaboration.
But can Nigeria even afford a wall if you even wanted to think about such
one Nigeria can afford to wall the whole of Nigeria. one Nigerian, one of those politicians can afford to wall the whole of Nigeria. Let's leave the issue of finance out of it, because that will open another page entirely. One Nigeria can wall the whole of Nigeria, not just walling, double walling. So it's not a matter of the finance, it's a matter of, is the government interested in that? Government,
or does it even recognize the fact that there is a need for it? Come to think of it, is this, you know, some kind of subtle backdoor war against Nigeria by her neighbors? Is that where the Nigerian government needs to begin to look at it from?
Well, you know, I may not say yes, because they also have their own fair share of this act of terrorism, Boko Haram. Initially, Cameroon was, you know, not forthcoming. If you remember, during the time of President Jonathan, and when Nigeria was trying to say, please, let's collaborate, let's work together, until they had their first kidnap, which was, I think, the wife of, I can't remember, neither the wife of the service chief or one of the top government functionaries. Boko Haram kidnapped them. Another 2 weeks later, they killed about 9 of their people, and I think 2 weeks later, he killed about 100. So they now saw that, look, this thing is no
not just about Nigeria.
It's not just Nigeria, and all those things
West
like
African
that.
thing
So
now.
for the first time, they now, you know, start, you know, because of the Cold War that existed between Nigeria and Cameroon, they are not very enthusiastic about issues like that. But when it becomes obvious that, look, we are also becoming victims, not just victims, big-time victims, they were able to curtail Boko Haram because I think they spoke in unison. They were able to do it because the government itself, you know, there was no this disparity of political or religious affiliation. They saw terrorism as terrorism, irrespective of your religious faith. So to a large extent, and don't forget that as far as Cameroon is concerned, Cameroon has manned its border relatively well compared to Chad and Niger. Compared to Chad and Niger, it's Niger and Chad that you can just cross from Katsina. You will get to the border of Katsina. I've been there. You get to the border of Katsina, you will not see one single security agent. One. Because I've been there. I'm not saying them say, it's something I've gone through. Not even one. And you will see people going in and out, just the way you will go to your, you know, you move from here to Mushi and all those stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong in that if we are in a peaceful, you know, and a normal society. But now that some criminals in the name of terrorism are taking over, I don't think it makes sense.
So now, speaking of,
and
you know, actually manning
identified boundaries.
Let's look at the strength, the staff strength of the Nigerian Immigration Service, somewhere around 23,000 or thereabout. How is that even, you know, enough to scratch the surface when it comes to adequately providing security for Nigeria's borders? No,
it's in contemporary society, numerical strength, as important and as good as it is, has been downplayed with the advent of technology. If you cannot invent, you buy technology.
But are we even using technology?
You know, that is one thing the government should really look at. You needn't, look, with your GPS or whatever, you can see a lot of things. That's even with our local phone. Not to not talk of a government that said that they have Niger site. SAT, or what do you call it? Nightcom SAT also. And kidnapping keep happening every day, and you cannot track. And you said you have a satellite system, and I've not, as far as I'm concerned, I've not seen anything functional in the said satellite that was billions of dollars were wasted to acquire and all those stuff like that.
There is even Google Earth. Google Earth you can see anywhere.
You see, if the manpower, as good as it is, not the ultimate. In contemporary world now, technology is used to do what? To help security. So it's a lazy man's approach to say we are just 23,000 people now out of 180 million people. It's a lazy man's approach.
All right, now let's look at the challenges in identifying, because the point there is arrests have not really been made when they say these people are suspected bandits or suspected herdsmen or suspected. How do we identify the fact? You mentioned it earlier on as to you've not known these people. How do you know, how do you conclude or make assumption that they belong to their bandits or they are cattle rustlers?
I think it's basically to do a damage control. It's basically a propagandistical approach towards security. To look at a soft word. Now the issue is when you even talk about headsmen. Are headsmen not terrorists? They are pure terrorists.
Why are they terrorists?
Recently.
Yes.
They were not always terrorists. At
No,
least.
of course.
We had
I'm
nothing to
talking of
fear.
recently,
Oh,
especially the
obviously.
one they call the Fulani cattle herdsmen that will go to villages and sack people, kill them, take over their and all those stuff like that.
But
so we play with
it is
words.
the same thing because arrests have not been made. So just like we had the Mieti leaders here sometimes,
yeah.
you cannot say it is they are Fulani. Sometimes they are not Fulani people. Sometimes their headsmen are headsmen. So
No,
the people classify them as Fulani. They may
No,
not even be Fulani in the first place.
The nomenclature of Fulani headsmen is what is used to identify headsmen that are into terrorism as it were today. And the reason is basically because headsmen are predominantly Fulanis. 80% of them are Fulanis. So it becomes a tall order for you to begin to use other ethnic groups to associate with. I agree to the extent that not all Fulani headsmen are terrorists. Even the Minister of Agric has come out to say that they are not Nigerians.
Yes.
And if you are saying that they are not Nigerians, what have you done to flush away those people that are none of your citizen?
That's a big
And
question.
you are not doing anything to protect your citizen against them. And the worst of all is that they will take over village, you go and establish an IDP and ask your citizen to be in an IDP, and you ask foreigners to be in those villages and stay in those villages. That is the paradox of life.
So what's the way forward? I mean, former Interior Minister Abamoro said something about Nigeria spending or needing some $240-something million to actually man the borders as far as using technology is concerned. So you've harped on the need to use technology. How can we use this then to solve this problem?
Technology is the easiest but very expensive. It's the easiest but very expensive. But of course, technology would also be manned by human beings. The execution is technology will not actually prevent a determined criminal from going. It's just like a CCTV camera. A CCTV camera will not prevent a thief from coming to steal. If he determined to steal, he can even look at the camera and say, camera, look at me. Do you understand? But the advantage is that the camera is able to identify who you are. So if you steal and you go away, that means that you can only run, you can hide. That is what technology can do in the forests. Technology can help identify when intruders are coming in, can help us identify where they are grouping, can help us identify where they are training, can help us identify their source of supply, can help us identify their route of logistics, can help us identify, their strengths and their vulnerabilities, can help us identify the actual place to target and the actual place not to target. That is what technology can do for us. And that is why it is imperative to apply the instrumentality of technology. But the government will
to do it.
Implement it.
All right.
Is the major thing.
Okay.
It's more important than even the technology.
All right.
Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming on this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Stay tuned for our next discussion shortly.